Okay, so here we are looking at the week 3 material. I'm just going to start off with the first one in an order. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm trying to go in alphabetical order, but the first week I messed up on the order, so anyway, I think we're back on track now. So this is the first one by Jessica Brown here. As we're always going to do, I want to check out the MLA first. You may have seen my announcement for this week about MLA, so I'm going to really stress MLA, and then we'll check the content. Okay, we always want to check the margins. The margins here look good. We have our last name and page number up here, so that's good. We have our heading up here, that's good. Here we have the date, but it's not written out, and we want to go ahead and make sure we get that written out to make sure that it's as good as possible, or let's say this, as correct as possible. So let me write that down while I'm not talking so I won't confuse myself. No, see, I did it. Shh. Okay, we have a title there, indicative of what we're going to see. I would have gone ahead and added one more thing to the title. Chapter 9, Volume 2 of Frankenstein. So we know exactly what we're looking at. Again, more, or let's say this, better titles. Titles that are more indicative of what you're going to be covering usually get better grades. Alright? And then we have the thing itself. Now, there's some issues here that I want to bring out. The assignment was for a summary, and I saw this on lots of them, and not just this one, so this is towards Miss Brown here, but it's not just for her. Summary is not bullet points. You can use bullet points to summarize, but specifically bullet points do not summarize. So I would have rather seen this in paragraph form and put it together in some kind of contiguous format. Right now what happens with a bunch of disjointed bullets is there's no continuity between the ideas, and so there's some issues there. So hear me say now, if you've never heard it before, bullet points are great, but they're not summary, so don't confuse the two. Bullet points are just to highlight something. We want more than highlighting, we want summary, and the only way summary works is to tell us something about it and make things go together. Okay, next, I see works cited here, but it's on this page, it's straddling these two pages. Make sure your works cited is on the last page. You'll also notice that it's not works cited, it's works cited. So it's not got the S of works, and it's not got cited, it's got cited. Again, she won't be the only one to do this, so make sure that you are doing it correctly. Works cited. While we're back here looking at the works cited, looks pretty good. There's some things that I think we need to correct though. We want this Frankenstein. It should always, book titles are supposed to be italicized. Then we're missing all of the information that tells us this is the second edition. And we don't have anything telling us about who the editor is, which that's the only reason you have an edition is because there was an editor. And so we want to make sure that we include that information. We've got some of the right information here, but we've got some extra stuff that we don't need. We only need one city. London is not a part of New York, so we just want New York. And then we want Norton. We don't need the WW. And we don't need page numbers because that should be up actually in the citation. And we need to know what kind of resource it is. It's a print resource. There's what it ought to look like. Pretty different from what we started with. So make sure you're getting that information on there correctly. Alright, now then, here's the deal. She's got a works cited here because I asked for one. But the only reason I have a works cited is because there's actually something being cited. But there's nothing being cited. There is in fact no quote here as the assignment asked for. So this is rather purposeless, even though I asked for it, but the thing that's supposed to be connected to isn't there. So on the larger level, this whole assignment of a summary assignment doesn't do what it needs to do. So make sure when you're doing a summary assignment, and I asked for a quote, make sure you do that. Especially since there's another quote in the next assignment. Make sure you get those things in there, make sure you're citing them correctly. Alright, let's go look at another one. Alright, I don't want to look at that one yet. I want to look at this one. Alright. Next one. This one is, since we didn't get real summary in the last one, I went ahead and I brought up another first summary. So this one, again, is close, but not close enough. So there are some things that I want to bring to our attention here. Okay, so we're going to look at our MLA, And it'd be handy if we knew what page we're on. Yes, the very first thing we need to do is make sure we're getting those page numbers on there. So insert, page number. Now look, it's not that we don't know. It's that we need those numbers on there. And so in this one, Bruce, good. That's all it took to get those page numbers on there. Now that's correct. We can see it's good. It should have rolled over to the next page when we had works cited, but we didn't have works cited. So again, this assignment is not complete either. Okay, so MLA heading, I can see we're getting close, but we don't have it all there. Got that name, got this name, but now we need my name in there, and I am Professor Robert Burton, and so that should be in there. Alright, there's an extra line space in here. We don't want that extra line space in there either. So now this is looking a little more correct. Again, I'm going to belabor the correctness of how the document looks, because if it doesn't look right, anybody grading your stuff will assume it's not right. And once they've assumed you don't know what you're doing, they're going to grade your essay like you don't know what you're doing. I don't want that to happen to you. Alright, next. Alright, so we have this. You can see this is lined up on the left-hand side, as it should be. But if we go down here, we can see this paragraph. If we look up in here, we can see that it's not left-aligned. So all the stuff that's written in the paragraph form is not where it needs to be. So we're going to move it over there by pulling this over here. And then our tab should be set at 1/2 inch, and that's how it ought to look. Really important these things look correct. Now then, ultimately, why does it matter where the margins are? Well, first off, because MLA says so. But second off, because remember just a second ago when this thing was down on a second page? Well, now it's no longer on a second page because I had to shorten the margins up. I had to put the margins where they ought to be. Don't make that mistake. On a short essay, it's not a big deal, but on a long essay, it will bite you. Every single time, it will come back and bite you in the booty. So make sure that you get that fixed. Make sure you get this thing where it ought to be. All right. We ought to have a works cited. We don't have a works cited. In fact, she doesn't need a works cited because she didn't quote, but of course in the assignment I asked for a quote, so that is going to be a misstep. So make sure that if I ask for a quote or any instructor asks for a quote, you include it. It would be a whole lot easier to hang this whole thing. Oh wait a second, there is a quote. Oh, look at there, so we do have a quote. What we didn't have, so I couldn't see it, was we didn't have a citation. And so because we have the quote, we need that works cited. Not to mention, again, I asked for it. Yeah. So make sure if you have the quote, you have the citation in there. Well, we don't know where this comes from precisely, but we can make some kind of guess at it. It probably goes, let's see. Let's just say that it's like Shelley, page 123. Do we put the P in there for 123? No, we don't put that in there. I think this is supposed to be like the introduction for the quote, but the introduction for the quote is coming after the quote. So I would make that point is if you're going to have that, that actually should go right about here. And again, she's confused Frankenstein for the monster. I mean the monster for Frankenstein. Look, she says Frankenstein's first argument is I am malicious because I'm miserable. Look, the monster's name is not Frankenstein. Victor's name is Frankenstein. The monster is not a Frankenstein. He's the creature. He's the monster. He's the fiend. He's the demon. Okay, so Frankenstein's monster first argument is this. Good. This makes a whole lot more sense this way. So make sure you're putting that in there. All right. Now we would need that works cited, and that would be our third page down here. It's disappointing that it's not there, but I'm sure it will be next time. Okay. Now I would ask you to take a look at the content of the thing, and I want to look at this right here. Here's her first part of this. I asked for a summary of Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is just the discussion between the monster and Victor. If we look at this, though, what she's dealing with here is much of some of the prefatory material there. It's not really doing the summary that we ask for. And so I would tell you, look straight at what you're trying to get to. I think she's trying to frame up this, and that kind of makes sense to me, except that it's simply not doing what was asked for, which was to look at that chapter specifically. All right, then she moves on, and she actually moves on to the better stuff down here, saying, you know, Victor Frankenstein made several compelling arguments towards Victor. Again, she's confused the Frankenstein's monster with Frankenstein himself. Just because we've seen that green-faced guy with the terrible hair and the bolts coming out of his neck and called him Frankenstein, that's not Frankenstein, even though a lot of people call him that. Frankenstein is Victor. This is just the monster she's trying to talk about. All right, she really is trying to deal with the argument. She's confusing some things. He doesn't say he'll move to South Africa. There's nothing down there. What he wants is what she wants to say is South America. Again, be very conscious of what you're trying to do there. It's really important. All right, and then the rest of that seems okay. It feels kind of incomplete because of the way she's finished it, but I think that's in large part due to this beginning part, which doesn't really do where she's trying to get to, and so she's only got this to work with. All right, let's go look at another one. There we go. All right, so then this one looks pretty good, except what do we have here? We got page right up in the thing. We don't write page up there. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, just Burnett 1. Good. All right, now we finally have the right information here. All good. Yes, we have a summary. We already know it's by that person, so we don't need to include that in the title. So might be a little better to say what it's from. Frankenstein, and then you could say just chapter 9 if nothing else. We have the quote there, so we should have a works cited. Sure enough, we do. Looks like it needs more information, but it's there. All right, the thing I would call your attention to here is our margins aren't correct. We have 1 1/4 inch margins. She just used the Microsoft Word default margins. Those are going to cause a problem. Don't use those. So let's go back and fix that. Page layout, margins, 1 inch. Now that's a little more right. The reason it's really bad in this one is because we still have another inset here. So all this stuff is inset also, so we don't want that. So everything should be out here, just like the previous one. It had added an extra layer of complication in there. Alright, there's where that thing ought to sit. Again, margins and tabs and all those things need to be set correctly because they change the overall length of your document. Again, not so much in a 2-page, but when we get down to the longer essays, the 5-page, it really makes a difference. In fact, it can make you a whole half-page short. So make sure you're doing those correctly. Alright, here's her quote. We always want to end with a period. The period doesn't go here. I know it feels strange, but take it out of the actual quote and put it at the end of the actual citation. So we know that that's inclusive of all that. So we know that, in fact, this sentence in quotes goes with this citation. Alright, I won't belabor how to fix the works cited, but again, this is not enough information. We're missing all the addition and editor material out of that. Alright. If we look at the summary here is a little better, but there's a couple problems. We have this quote, and it feels like we should be working with that quote. Instead, the summary doesn't seem to really be focused on that quote, and that's why we tell you integrate the quotes in, build the paragraph around the quote, not just put a quote and then move on past it. Here we have this question. It's a great question, but it's not the quote she's using. This would have been a better quote to use and to build a paragraph around it. In fact, that's what she's trying to do, except she didn't want to use it as a quote and didn't want to cite it, and so it's a little confusing about what's supposed to be happening there. Alright, on the whole, this is probably one of the better summaries we've seen. This person, though, is really overusing the word it as the beginning of their sentences. I would really caution against such things. Watch that use of it. Alright, there's enough for today. Hope that was helpful. Okay.